Welcome to Grown Man Sessions. I'm your host, Timothy Rhyme. I have overcome addiction, incarceration, depression, and almost died. I learned a very important lesson along the way, and that's be good to yourself and be good to others because that's why we're here. And that's what this channel is all about: healing, growth, learning, and moving forward. We're going to be having some very difficult conversations with some very beautiful guests, and I hope you stick around to listen to their amazing stories. If you are on your own journey of transformation of growth, I congratulate you and I encourage you to keep going. Please hit the subscribe button so that we can stay connected and keep expanding this community. And thank you in advance for the love. But now let's get to the good stuff.
Hi, this is Griffin Gervais from Charlotte, North Carolina, and you are listening to Grown Man Sessions.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Grown Man Sessions. I'm Timothy Rhyme. You guys have heard me say this so many times, and it's just a continuation of me saying the same things over and over again. But I feel like the universe just keeps sending me more and more awesome people. Like I said, when I first started this journey, I didn't know where it was going to take me, but I've been able to find some very amazing people throughout the world, and I'm very grateful that they're willing to come on this show and talk to you guys, talk to me, and just kind of like get a broader conversation going no matter where we're at. So today I get to talk to Griffin Gervais. He is from Charlotte, North Carolina. So tell me a little bit about your background, man. Like, were you always from the East Coast?
No, so Timothy, I want to acknowledge what you said at the beginning in terms of like trusting the universe and just kind of going with it. I think that's so rare with things that go on in society and our world, and just that you're trusting that and leaning into that is super cool. So I want to acknowledge you for that because it takes a lot to do that, and it takes a lot of intention to be able to kind of lean into that. So I think that's absolutely incredible that you're doing that.
Well, this
And
is just
go
to
ahead.
kind of give you a little bit of context on this platform is like I started this because I lost my son in early 2021, January 2021. My newborn, he was 8 months. My wife gave stillbirth, and it's
Mm-hmm.
crushing to our family.
Mm,
They say grief is having all this love and all these plans and ideas about a person and not having anything to do with it.
mm,
So I just, I went through my grieving process, still am in a sense, but like this is part of that for me.
mm,
So to me, this is kind of like a homage to my son, and this is
mm.
me trying to like leave his legacy in a sense.
Yeah.
So to me, like I'm not doing it really. It's more
Yeah.
of a bigger picture for me. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of like I'm the vessel, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to just send you a ton of love and energy for your loss. And
Thank you, brother.
it, I absolutely love that you're channeling it in a way that serves and in a way that connects you and inspires and grows. Just people connecting and coming together and having these levels of conversation. So I am extremely grateful to be here with you, Timothy. And just to give a quick background on me, because I could probably talk about that for a long time, but no, I am originally from Connecticut. Um,
Okay.
so so I was born and raised in Connecticut. Came down to North Carolina for college. After college, went back up to the Northeast and actually lived in New York City, where my degree is in education. So I was an elementary school teacher. Spent time doing that. Spent 9 years in education.
Hmm.
Ended up getting a master's in educational leadership. Ended up stepping into a role in administration, and kind of went through this journey. And one of the things throughout that journey was I had always been rooted in the growth of humans, not necessarily from an academic standpoint, but
Hmm.
more of an internal space.
Okay.
How were students, how were people evolving as humans? How were they listening to themselves? How were they doing things that serve them? How were they developing perspective and empathy and all these different pieces? And so that was a beautiful journey as an educator that I was able to bring into a classroom with teams that I worked with, and then when I stepped into administration, bring that to an entire school level, which was really
Right.
cool. And in that space, when I was working as an administrator, a lot of my work was directly with teachers. I wasn't as hands-on with the students anymore, and through that work, it was just super eye-opening and super empowering to watch teachers learn so much about themselves as individuals before they brought it to the students. And at
Hmm.
that point, I was kind of trying to navigate my own world and figure out, like, okay, where do I go with this? And for the longest time, I feel like just the track record and natural progression was like, okay, now become a principal or superintendent or whatever district someone. And that just didn't land with me anymore. And what I wanted to do was kind of hone this energy
Hmm.
towards being able to support people, being able to help people deal with the internal work so
Right.
that it showed up externally for them. And that's where I kind of veered off and decided to step away from education and take all of that with me and now impact people in the space as a coach. And that's a lot of the work I do with people now, Timothy, is I work with leaders. I work with people who lead teams, who lead companies, who have a lot going on, and really give them space to start learning about themselves so that they're leading through them rather than at the cost of them. And I do that through this embodiment called the overflow effect. And that's exactly what it is. You're just pouring so much into you that the byproduct is everyone else around you just gets it.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah.
I
So
can see that.
so that's where I am now, and that's kind of the community I serve and how I show up.
That's awesome, bro. Like I'm a very visual person, and I can like visualize that like in an artistic way. So I like that.
Yeah, and I think, like, and this isn't, I think every single one of us can relate to it, no matter what we do, who we are, what our circumstances look like. But the idea, right, is that, are you the cup that's pouring in to everyone else and just absolutely depleting and draining yourself and never refilling you? Or is it possible that you can actually pour into people in the most effective, best, from love space, where you actually stack those cups and you're at the top? And so when you're pouring into yourself, when that cup gets full, it just starts to spill over. But everything else, your work, your relationships, your family, your job, your health, all those things are just
Benefit.
underneath, and it's just flowing right into that.
I like that. So tell me if this makes sense to you because it makes me think of how I used to be um, on the opposite end of that spectrum where I was filling my cup with nothing but bad stuff. Like I was filling my
Mm,
cup up with nothing but like poison and toxic and negativity. And I think that naturally overflowed into everything else that was around me. Does it have that same effect, do you
mm.
think?
Yeah, I think, one thing I really love that. I really love, like, the idea that you can fill your cup, but what you're really leaning into right there, Timothy, is this idea of, like, what are you actually filling your cup with,
Right. Yeah.
right? And I go and I really, and to answer your question, yes. Because whatever you're pouring into yourself, your external world is just going to be the byproduct of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so if you don't have healthy relationships, if you're not healthy yourself, if work's not going well, if you can't set boundaries, or you're feeling some resistance, and you're not doing those things to understand what they are and how they're impacting you, and you don't take care of them, yes, the byproduct is they will show up. And so the question gets to be, and this is a process that I do for myself daily, and people I work with do it as well, is this idea of, who do you want to be and how do you want to show up?
I like
Because
that.
when we get space to sit with ourselves and think through the idea of, who actually do I want to be today and how do I want to show up, then we can start being intentional with our actions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, man. I think that's a hard thing that I am still working through as well. So I could definitely see the benefit of being able to speak to somebody like yourself to help guide, somebody through that process. But I wanted to kind of touch on something
Yeah.
because when you sent me the original email and you
Hmm.
mentioned, masculinity, confidence, emotions, and what men struggle with. Um, Throughout this process of talking to other men on grown man sessions,
Yeah.
um, I think one of the more common themes that I'm hearing that a lot of us are kind of dealing with
Hmm.
in some sort of way is like not being able to necessarily have healthy conversations with other men about certain things, you
Mm,
know. um so I'm curious, like, because you mentioned masculinity,
yeah.
confidence, and emotions. Like, how do you feel like that kind of manifests in our lives?
Yeah, I think society just in general has created this picture of, for men, that emotions are weak, that you have to stand tall, you have to be proud, right? And the side of that is, well, you can't show it, you can't open up, you can't be vulnerable, because when you do, that's weakness. And that's just programmed, like, from the beginning of time. That's just how it's been. And then as we've gotten older, it's the idea of taking care of the family and all of this stuff. And what while it's honorable, while it serves to be able to feel that way, we also don't allow space for the other side, because what we fail to recognize is those things exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every action that you take is driven by an emotion. Like, just let that settle for a second. Every single thing that we do, whether you're a male or female, day in and day out, is driven by an emotion. Yet we tell men emotions are weakness,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just that in of itself. So these men are carrying the weight of what's going on for them, but then they don't actually have the outlet to express it, or they don't believe that they should be like that. So what do? They suppress it, they suppress it, they suppress it. And the idea, I think where we're moving, and Timothy, I want to say, like, I think in society we are moving into a space where it is more kind of mainstream to acknowledge those things. But I think a lot of that just comes from the idea of judgment, just judging ourselves, judging what shows up. And how I'm actually writing a blog right now about emotions just being information. Emotions are
Yeah.
neutral.
Yeah.
They're not good, they're not bad. They're information, and they're flashlights to have us do things. So I think I think there's a lot of unlearning we have to do as men. And
Mm-hmm.
and I had to do that. I had to go through that journey, because I
Yeah.
grew up playing sports. I grew up with this idea of, like, it's got to be perfect, like, you got to stand tall, you got to be proud. And when those things come up, it's great to present that way. But if the background of it, if the baggage behind it is not in alignment with that, then there's a lot of stuff to work through. But what I've realized, and why I've done a lot of work with men, and I lean into this a lot with men, is because when I'm in these conversations with men, one of the things they always voice is, I wish men had space to do this,
Right.
right? Because they feel like they live in isolation. They feel like they're in these little silos where we're all screaming the same thing from the mountaintop, right? Um, and so I always encourage people, like, well, if you don't have it, why don't you have it? Because it's there. So if you're a man out there, if you're someone who's listening to this, and you're a lot of it's resonating, but you're like, I don't have it, then you get an opportunity to look at your reality and say, well, what do I have control over? What can I do? If
Yeah.
these are conversations I want to be in, where do those exist? Because they
Yeah.
exist.
They do.
And as men, right, we have a choice, and we're not our results, but we're our decisions. And so if you care and you want to lean into these conversations, to be in spaces to talk about this with men, to support other men, to be open and vulnerable with other men, I would really encourage you to figure out, where does that exist for me, and what does it need to look like for me.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think you made a really poignant point by saying that it does exist, because in my own process of developing this platform, this program or whatever, I had to do a lot of research to try to like see what else is out there in the same space. And
Hmm.
there are things out there that are very similar that are like available. But the thing about it is like I would have never have known had I not gone to look for it, you
Yeah.
know. But then and I mean I don't want to like focus too much on the negative aspect of my comment in this what I'm gonna say, but I was also coming across a lot of men's channels that were the opposite of what we're talking about. So there was like some sort of
Mm,
there was some
yeah.
sort of movement. It was called like MGTOW or something like that, men going the other way. And I
Mm,
saw that it was very popular. I was like, oh, maybe this is something that I would like and resonate with. But the whole platform is dedicated to like dispelling like feminism and how it affects men, you know. So they're,
mm,
you know, doubling down on the machismo. And so I was pretty discouraged, you know. I was like, oh man, that
mm-hmm,
stinks, you know, like the channels that I'm looking for and the platforms that I'm looking for that I like, you know, they're not as big as this one, you
mm-hmm.
know, like, and that stinks because like I don't think that that's necessarily like a good thing for us to be, you know, promoting, you know. And like,
Gotcha.
so
Yeah, and I kind of go like, one, I want to acknowledge that you had to go through that experience to realize like that's not for me,
right.
right? Like you had to be super clear for yourself to be like, I like, and for you, and please step in if I'm misspeaking, but you're like, I have a desire for this, so now I need to go figure it out. I'm
Right.
not really quite sure what it needs to look like or what's going to land with me, but I need to step into these spaces. Oh, that one didn't fit who I want to be, so let me now go here. And I would encourage men, and that's why, those questions that I spoke into before. If you're someone who's curious about this, if you're someone who is looking for this, sit with yourself and ask yourself the questions like, who do you want to be and how do you want to show up? Because when you figure out who is the person that you want to be, you're really embodying characteristics. You're thinking about, I want to be vulnerable, I want to be open, I want to be outgoing, I want to be brave, I want to be strong, whatever that is for you, right? Whatever you determine is the person you want to be, and who the core of you is and what you value, then you have a lens and you can be like,
Hmm.
cool, now I need to go look and see what's out there that aligns with the person I say that I want to be.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's like just like the epitome of like just really getting to know yourself.
Yeah, and I know you and I were going back and forth, and a lot of the work and how it's crazy. I mean, I was having this conversation the other day, and we were talking about pausing, and you and I were going back and forth about pausing,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of people, and it just depends on like where you are on your journey and what it needs to look like for you. And I
Hmm.
think I and I was having a conversation, and I was talking to someone else, and I was saying that my world, like my day, actually revolves around pausing, because pausing to me gives so much intention to what comes next.
Mm. So you're slowing down and you're taking that
Because
time.
Right. And when you talk about it, when you think about slowing down to go fast or whatever it is, it's like, oh, how do I slow for a period of time? And then I go fast for a period of time. And I will
Yeah.
say, like, there are seasons for me where it is slower and faster. But when I really, really break that down, I actually go slow and go fast 30 to 40 times a day. I mean, it's really funny. I told the person that I was having this conversation with, I was like, I should actually record every time, because I can't even count. But kind of what we're talking about, the idea behind pausing is to take inventory, to understand yourself, to pause,
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
check in, because I think we live in a world, and I've been there, where I've lived in automatic. I've just, from the moment that I've woken up, it's been like, okay, what emails are coming through, what things do I like, the second my eyes open to the second I close my eyes, it's already predetermined for me, and I'm just externally going.
Hmm.
And it wore on me.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And what I had to get to a point of was like starting to really slow things, to start really being intentional, to listen to myself. I have to keep moving my finger because the camera. Listen to myself, understand myself, gain clarity for myself, create a vision for myself, and then build tools for myself, so that as I go into my days, as I have different experiences, because I don't know what life's going to bring to me, that I have ways to always navigate that from an opportunity and an invitation to my highest self.
I feel like that all ties into what you're saying about, like, the overflow effect,
Correct.
and completely focusing on, like, you said yourself a lot of times, but I feel like that's the good selfish. That's like
Hmm.
the productive selfish that everybody, I feel like, should practice, man or woman.
Hmm.
But it just it's I feel like, I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it's like a male female thing. I have no idea, but I know for myself, like, I am the type of person that I get stuck in, like, I used to make this analogy when I was in doing my music stuff, but I
Yeah.
made this analogy that, like, I would be stuck in sixth gear. I
Mm.
realized I realized that being in the independent, like, music scene, like, you have to have a sixth gear, but I
Mm.
didn't know how to downshift.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to, like, and even if I did downshift, like, I felt guilty, or I felt like something was
Mm.
wrong, or I felt like I was doing a
Yeah.
bad thing, and, like, it wore on me so much that, like, this whole idea of downshifting, slowing down, pausing, and focusing on self, like, it took me almost like losing my life to be able to
Mm.
come to that realization. And I give anybody credit, including yourself, and a lot of respect and a lot of, like, your flowers, because I think that anybody that can do that without going to the things that I went through, I feel like is
Mm.
already like a million steps ahead.
Well, and it's I think and it's been a lot of learning and it's been a lot of adjusting because at the end of the day, I get to, and we as just humans get to ask ourselves, like, did I show up how I wanted to show up today?
Yeah.
And did I
Yeah.
show up for me? And I think often we live in a world, and I hear you, man. I hear you so much with this idea of like slowing down because there's so many things. And what I've come to realize, right, is like everything, all those things that we're talking about are external things. They're the
Right.
sales, they're the deals, they're the relationships, they're all these things that we think are so important. But one thing we always fail to realize is at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the only thing that we're left with is ourselves.
Yeah.
Like through opportunities and through experiences and through work and through relationships, like those things can come and go.
Yeah.
We never know because we have no control over those things. The only thing we have control over is ourselves.
Yep.
And when you think about that and you think about the progression of life and what things look like, the only common denominator is you.
Yep.
And one thing I found, which I heard in what you were saying too, is we live in a world that's so focused on those pieces.
Hmm.
Well,
External.
how are you grinding? How are you going? How are you pushing? And I'm not saying that those things are bad,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Those things are good and those things can serve, but but is there a cost to it?
Right. Right.
Because if you're someone who knows how to go 100 miles an hour each day, but you're showing up for yourself and you're taking care of in your core what you need to for you, bro, go fucking 100 miles an hour all day every day.
Right.
But if it's at a cost of something,
Right.
then you need to slow,
Yeah.
because that's what creates frustration, resentment, burnout, all of that, and
Anxiety.
anxiety and stress. And does that serve you, right? It's that idea of like there's two roads to get there. Do you want to take that road, or do you want to take the road that actually gives you the opportunity to show up and pour into yourself? And I mean, Timothy, like it's just the idea of going into a day with the ability to just create so much consciousness and awareness around where you are, how you're feeling, what you're doing, so that no matter what your interactions are, no matter what shows up, you're operating from here. You're
Right.
operating from your heart.
Right.
Because when we operate from here, right, if we're worried about the sale or worried about the business or worried about that, it's probably stemming from scarcity, a lack of
Right.
fear.
Right. Fear.
Where if we can just slow ourselves down, we have it all here. It's all right there. We just need to listen to it.
Just tap into it.
Yeah. But societally, right? And I think, like I said, I think we're getting to a place of shifting into this world of tuning into here. Um, but right, like those things don't create external return on investment, right? Like, well, if I pause to listen to myself,
Mm-hmm.
I might miss that, right? And so that's where our lens is, that's where our perspective is. That's not the problem, right? The problem is not the problem. Your perspective is the problem. It's Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think you made a good point, and I think you don't get that external reward, but the problems can manifest in different ways, and the
Mm,
returns can manifest in different ways. So I feel like for me, like I like what you said about um if you can go 100 miles an hour, then do it. Like I realized that I had a sixth gear. So
yeah,
to me, like I use that as an advantage. I
yeah,
say, okay, like when I'm ready to go into sixth gear, I know when to go into sixth gear.
hmm,
And then I also know when to downshift now.
yeah,
And I know when I'm revving my engine, and I know when I'm redlining, and I know when like
mm,
my fuel tank is getting low, and when I need to slow down and get off the road, and go do other things, and
yeah,
completely shift my focus. And
hmm,
I think that like I've I know what you mean, because like when I first started downshifting and I first started slowing down, like I said, like I felt weird, like I felt guilty, I felt like I wasn't doing enough, and like so I was kind of beating myself up. But as that phase of slowing
mm,
down kind of passed, I started realizing like how much like better I was sleeping, like how much clearer I was thinking
yeah,
about that stuff that I did want to focus on. I realized that like I was being more present with the relationships that I wanted to have, including
hmm,
with my kids.
yeah,
So like there were all these other benefits that started like these little aha moments,
yeah,
and I was like, okay, like it's not an external reward, like you're saying. I'm not getting that thing that I feel like I need, but I am getting something that I need, like I
yeah.
am, but it's just not the same thing that I was expecting.
Well, yeah, and I love that because you actually end up getting what you need
Yeah,
way greater than you ever imagined it could look. Because
yeah,
right when you're taking care of those things that you need, when you're leaning into what you value, I mean, right? Like think about those people who struggle with their mental health,
yeah.
or unfortunately we lose people, and
Hmm.
when we look at their external worlds, you're like, yeah, but bro, they had it all,
They had it
right? They had
all.
the money, they had the fame, they had the success, but what they were missing was here.
Yeah,
They were missing operating from a space of their heart. They were just trying to use those as band-aids and they never addressed the root,
yeah.
right? And then you see people who don't have as much, but they're the happiest people in the world. Why? Because they're operating from a space of here,
Yeah.
right? Like those things, to the point, those things always, you can do as much stuff. You can get the house, you can go and get that relationship you think you need, you can go and get that car, you can go on that vacation. The conversations and the things that are here are always going to show up. They're always going to be there
Yeah.
until we embrace them and we just start to listen to them and we start to understand them. And one thing, like I heard you say that I think is super big, like there's no right or wrong way to embody the overflow effect. It's figuring out a way that works for you and a
Hmm.
vision of how you want to live your life. And so I would encourage people, are you even clear on the vision that you want for yourself? Like, do you even know, right? We all are heading towards some certain North Star. We all
Hmm.
have something we want to achieve. We all have something we want to create. Do we know what that is? Right? Because if someone's like, yo, I think you need to slow down, and we're slowing down, why are we slowing down? Are you doing that for them? Are you really
Hmm.
doing it for you? Like,
Yeah.
and so when we get to understand what our vision for ourselves is and what's important for us and what we value and kind of how we want to live, then we can operate from a real foundation. Because often we just go with no foundation.
Hmm.
But I think creating a foundation and a vision gives, like you said, Timothy, you now have a lens and opportunity. Okay, cool. I can push now, but now I know when to back off. Why?
Hmm.
Because it serves you, because
Yeah.
you know what you want to create for yourself.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, I completely agree. Um, For somebody that is in their journey and they're actually at the point where they feel like this is something that they would like to do,
Mhm.
um, how could they start that process of understanding themselves better? And how can they just begin to have that conversation with themselves?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I've done a lot of work with the Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence, and
Hmm.
they foundationally come from two questions. And I embody these two questions daily, and people I work with embody it. But if you're someone who is wanting to kind of check in, to just take some inventory, I would ask yourself two questions: How are you feeling, and why are you feeling that way? And I would also say this with a little piece: allow space to go into it neutral and not judge yourself. There's
Mm.
nothing right, there's nothing wrong. You're not broken. There like it's just information.
Yeah, yeah,
But I would encourage people who are on this journey and who want to do that, create space for yourself. And maybe that's journaling for you. Maybe that's meditation, maybe that's going on a walk. Just create time to listen to yourself. But if you're like, Timothy Griffin, how do I listen to myself? Ask yourself those two questions:
yeah.
How am I feeling, and why am I feeling a certain way? And just and don't here's the big thing, Timothy, because I think men specifically too. It's like we highlight it and then we're like, oh, gotta fix it. Right. We go straight to fix mode. Right.
What's the solution?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to experience that again. Right. But right there, that's judgment.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would encourage people who want to ask themselves those questions. Don't fix anything. Don't change anything. Just listen. Listen. Get curious with yourself. Understand yourself.
That's
Do not
awesome.
do not try to change it. Just listen, and you'll start collecting more information on what's showing up for you.
All right, guys. I gave you guys a challenge. I challenge you guys to ask yourself those two questions, and just see what happens. And
Yeah.
hopefully, it sparks an internal dialogue for you that
Mhm.
is beneficial. And you start to just
Mhm.
have a more of a peaceful interaction with your own energies and your own thoughts and your own feelings.
Yeah.
Because I think at the end of the day, man, like you touched on it like several times throughout the conversation, you kind of implied that we're all human, and it's a
Mhm.
natural thing to have these things, and
Yeah.
it's not. You don't have to be a certain way. I don't care what anybody tells you. I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
care. I don't care if it's your parents. I don't care if it's your priest. I don't care who it is. You don't have to be like this perfect little like
Mhm.
version of whatever somebody else wants you to be, because like he said, like Griffin said several times as well, we're all on our own journeys. Like we
Yeah.
are in different points on our journeys, and but we can be supportive of each other, we can be understanding of each other, and just
Mhm.
give each other the space to express those things,
Yeah.
without being judged, without being made to feel like you can't be this way, and I think it all
Mhm.
starts with like people like yourself, being able to come on somebody that you don't know show to have these
Yeah.
conversations and just kind of show what that looks like, man. So I really do appreciate it, because this to me is something that I just want to leave as my legacy, and
Mhm.
hope that like a younger man that was like me in the past, or like you in the past, might say, okay, like let me start that conversation with myself earlier, and then
Yeah.
reap the benefits of it more throughout their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you said it so perfectly. And to all people, and it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, whoever,
Hmm.
treat yourself like your own best friend. That's it. That's it. Which is difficult, and I've gone through that, and we all do.
Yeah,
But
for
if we
sure.
can lead with that and love ourselves, you can unlock so much within yourself. So, Timothy, it was an honor, man. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring. Keep having these conversations, and I'm just super grateful that you allowed me to be a part of it.
Yeah, dude. Before I go, can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
Um, like I don't have like any kind of idea of what the answer should be. So I just want to be able to get your opinion, man,
Yeah.
because I get into these conversations more often than I imagined I would, and
Yeah.
it's based on this idea of what is a grown man. And
Mm,
I've had people that have said, "Oh, I was gonna check out your channel, but I thought it was gonna be like this machismo, like,
mm.
like kind of thing." And they're kind of surprised that it wasn't like that. So like I'm curious, like how would you define like a grown man?
I would say I would I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. A grown man is someone who loves himself and leads with love.
I love it, bro. I love it. And I agree. I don't want anybody to ever think that this platform is something that is gonna be judgmental, macho, toxic in any kind of way. Like this is
Mm,
all about just like giving us space to like grow,
mm,
heal, communicate,
yeah,
and develop new relationships with each other and ourselves.
yeah.
So, where can people get in contact with you if they want to check out what you got going on?
Yeah, yeah. If anyone wants to check out the work that I'm doing, the best way to connect with me or find my work is on Instagram at Griffin Gervais. There you can see all the things I lean into. And if you also want to talk or things resonated with you, um, just shoot me a DM, shoot me a message. And like you, Timothy, I love having conversations with people. So feel free to reach out.
Right on, man. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
If I always end these interviews by saying that one person could change the world, but it's one person at a time, and that one person is you. Um, and if you guys have gotten anything from this episode, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, and drop us a comment. But until the next time, please tune in. Give yourself some space, give yourself some time and some love, and I just hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. But thank you so much, Griffin. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Timothy.
Thank you.